All right, welcome along to the second ever episode of the Future of DePIN with myself and the all-knowing Bradley, aka DePIN Connection. Thanks for coming along again, Bradley. Thanks for doing this with me. This chat on in the future of DePIN and all nerdy stuff like that. How are you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great, man. I don't know about the all-knowing, but
yeah, well, we got to pump you up a bit,
I appreciate it. We do live and breathe this stuff every day, though, and we're in the cutting edge, man. That's why I wanted to do the robotics thing first, because I believe that is going to be the next big flow of capital. And there's a lot going on in the robotic space in DePIN right now, so super exciting stuff.
Yeah, I think we're a couple of days late. This was supposed to happen on Tuesday because that's when we do it. But unfortunately, centralized technology let us down once again. So I am kind of the decentralized, or the decentralization maxi in me is, I'm kind of curious to see how many times centralization has to fail us before, the broader public kind of get the message that it's just not a good way to build systems. I'm also very keen to talk about robotics, mostly because I'm a sci-fi nerd. But also I just think it's just going to be a step change. It's going to completely, completely change the face of reality of how we experience life. I think I feel like for a long time, decades, we've been, the narrative around robots has been sci-fi and like fear, Skynet, like will they go rogue and just kill us all or enslave us or something? And I mean, I'm not convinced that we have the wisdom to stop that. But what I like about DePIN and this technology in relation to robotics is that, it's essentially helping us own the robot rather than fearing the robot. So, and again, like that's a very surface level, but very, very high level view. But I just feel like the DePIN kind of flips the script on it essentially. And it gives us all the chance to possibly own something in this future where there's robotics and AI, and I don't know, I guess we're all going to be working less somehow. I'm not sure how that works at an economics level. It does make me feel like I should probably start to study economics more to try and figure out what the future might look like. In a world where there's robots everywhere doing everything and AI, us outsourcing our intelligence to AI. I don't know. But at a more immediate level, I feel like DePIN's the rails that are going to allow us all to get paid from it, hopefully. So let's look at things from that perspective. Let's dive into, what are the projects that are doing interesting things right now? And I think my thesis on it is, in a machine economy, is that for robots to be useful to us, we need sort of three things: the eyes, for want of a better way to put it, which is how they see the world, the senses to know like where they are and how they can navigate, and then the payment rails, the wallet or whatever it is that allows like inter-machine transactions to happen. Those are the kind of three pillars for me. I think with those things in place in a way that works, and I guess it needs to work for everybody. So it'll be very interesting to see how UI and the interface develops. But with those three things in place, then I think we have a really good opportunity in DePIN. So sound about right to you, or do you take a different?
Yeah. Like I think, a couple of things, for us that are like in the US or Europe, it's like, it still seems like this thing that's super far off. And I mean, you have to look at China. Like really, this is something I want to pull this chart up actually. Let me share my screen here. When you look at the amount of robots that are being deployed right now, it's actually pretty crazy. This gonna pull it. There we go. So this is industrial robots installed in top 5 countries. Take a look at China. so even though we haven't really seen it in a big way yet, I mean, we're seeing a lot of videos of humanoid robots and everything, and but it still seems like it's kind of this Jetsons idea that's like far off in the future. Right. China's been deploying robotics for a long time now. You know, they actually made it a priority because they have a very much like the rest of the world right now, declining birth rate, right? And they knew they would have a population issue with not enough young people to do all the labor. So they started investing heavily in robotics quite some time ago. And as you can see, they have quite a head start as well. And it's interesting, like what you said about the, perception layer. I think that's where that's the missing piece that a lot of people don't realize. And Aoki is one of the projects we're going to talk about. They're doing a lot on that front. China's looking at this a little bit differently than the US right now. They have like a ton of robotics manufacturers. The problem is, like, you can make the robots, but how do you make them useful in the real world? And that's the problem that Aoki is solving, is that perception layer, so they can navigate the real world. China is really making it more open source, so different companies can build software that can be integrated into these robots. The US is taking a little bit of a different approach, at least at this point, where they're going to, like many things, rely on a few centralized entities, make it a closed system so they control all the software and everything. So we'll see how this all plays out and who wins the race. But I have to say, China right now has really positioned themselves ahead of the US. The US has a lot of work to do to catch up. Not to say they won't, but I think it's important to put that context out there, because it's coming, guys. It's you've seen what's happened with AI over the last few years, and there have been so many really good investment opportunities. AI is going to continue to be a big thing, but I think it's going to integrate into robotics, and that is going to be the next wave of capital and inflows of capital. And I think there's the project we're going to talk about today. I think a lot of them are going to do very well. Many of which, not financial advice, many of which I have investment in myself. So very excited about the conversation.
Definitely no financial advice to be found here. That chart is absolutely astounding. It's really, really interesting. And I think it shows very clearly, like, it's not even China and the US. I mean, I know because you're based in the US, obviously a lot of the things that you would be looking at are from that perspective. But honestly, it's China over here and everybody else is over here, of which the US is one, and probably the most, like, well, actually, by the looks of things, not even second place. Japan is which actually makes a lot of sense. The first, in fact, the only time I've seen a robot here in Ireland was in a Japanese restaurant. The waiters don't carry your plates to the table. They just go collect the robot that has all the food on it, and it brings your sushi and whatever else to the table. So yeah, that was a little glimpse into the future, but that was a really, like, dumb, I want to say, robot. Certainly not like Optimus from Tesla, or I think there's probably about half a dozen Tesla competitors in China who are actually building robots, like, right now.
There are, yeah. In fact, I think Nils with Aoki was saying he expects there's probably gonna be a couple hundred of humanoid manufacturers in China. Again, they're going with a much different strategy to kind of come at it from a lot of different angles, whereas the US is looking at a more centralized approach. But I also want to call this out to kind of put this into perspective too. You guys have probably seen this, the Neo, right? The videos that have been going around recently, and you're like, oh man, that looks pretty cool. Have them come in, do my dishes, vacuum my floors. Here's the catch, guys, and this just goes to reinforce what Aoki and some of these projects are doing. It's like, hey, look at this robot, launches, but there's a catch. It needs humans to do your chores. They're human control, guys. Like, literally every task is going to have a remote human operator controlling your robot. They're going to be watching your home through the robot's cameras. Like literally a person controlling this thing in your house. Like, no, thank you. There's no way I would want to have that in my house with someone controlling that thing, watching everything I do. You think about that. You can't even like pull out your credit card in your own house now. Like that's crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. I think that's to train it though, right? Like, and then once it's trained on the jobs that you wanted to do, I think it's supposed to be able to do them itself or so I don't think that's a permanent thing, but even still with that technology built into it, hell no, I'm passing on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even want the possibility that somebody can take manual control.
No.
It's just not,
no. I mean, like if we've learned anything from data collection from these centralized entities over time, like they're salivating at getting these things in your house, especially, like you think Tesla's not going to be collecting data from inside your house. Like, come on, man. Like, and don't get me wrong. Like, I am a Tesla shareholder. I love the stock because I think they're getting into, I mean, what they're already doing with EVs, but they're getting into robotics in the sense of autonomous vehicles. We'll talk more about that. It's gonna be the first multi-trillion-dollar robotics industry, but yeah, this is a whole new way for them to be collecting data, So I think the more decentralized approach you can do, and the navigation in a decentralized way, kind of what Aoki's doing, which I think is the first project we'll talk about here, gives you kind of control over that as opposed to the centralized entities controlling all of your data. I think it's going to be a major topic that people probably aren't thinking about now. I mean, I think most people aren't even thinking about robotics. They like seen a couple of videos and they're like, "Oh, that'll be cool one day." It's like, no, it's coming. It's coming a lot faster than you realize. But I don't know. Do you want to kick it off? Or you want to talk about Aoki here?
Yeah, I don't mind. I thought we might go with the eyes first, and then the senses, like so navigation and perception, so like training and data. But if you want to start with navigation and perception, we can do that first. Up to you. I'm easy. Doesn't really matter.
Okay. Let's kick off with Aoki, and then we kind of roll through. So just talking about what we're the remote control of the robots, and this is what I think a lot of these robotics manufacturers are coming to realize is, hey, we've made these humanoid robots now, but how do we make them useful in the real world? That's the next big question. And that is exactly what Aoki's doing, is building the real world web, essentially giving that perception layer to robots to be able to navigate spaces. And I think the opportunity here is massive. And so that is exactly what the Aoki is doing here. Also, by the way, go and follow them too. This project is just absolutely crushing it. And Nils, their CEO, in fact, let me pull this over here. He was recently, I can find this picture here.
Yeah, I think
he was recently in a video interview with freaking Arthur Hayes and CZ. He doesn't look super excited in this picture, but I can assure you he was excited to talk about robotics.
Yeah, I bet that's quite the room. Yeah, Aoki are awesome. Just, I guess maybe at a high level, GPS doesn't really work indoors, and or in super dense cities, it's not really amazing, and certainly not to the to the nearest centimeter. So yeah, this is going to be massive. This project is absolutely essential for robotics to be able to work indoors.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the GPS also, and we'll talk about this with GeoNet when we talk about that project, but it's only accurate to within a couple of meters of accuracy. I mean, you need to have a lot more precision, and really that's part of it, but you also need like maps essentially for robots to work. So what Aoki is doing is, they're doing a couple different things. For one, they have a product called Cactus, so they're also doing some VR stuff. So we can talk about this first, but they're working with a lot of retail locations. So this was their first product before working with humanoids, but it still does, cross over because it's this visual layer. They're working with a lot of grocery stores. So this allows you with their app to be able to go through. What they're finding is that it's helping with making these grocery stores a lot more efficient. So let's say you're a manager of a grocery store. You can go through You can leave virtual notes for your employees for their tasks of the day. And what they'd done before that was, a 15-minute handoff with every single employee every single day, and it's a huge waste of time. They're finding that it's a lot more efficient for them to be able to kind of work within this virtual environment for employees, and it's making them a lot more efficient with their employees. And actually, they are working with hundreds, maybe thousands of locations overseas, but they did just announce, and it's actually funny. I was going to say the fact that we couldn't go live on Tuesdays actually worked out because they had a couple of big announcements. Number one, they had their first paid pilot with Cactus in the U.S. So they have a Fortune 500 company that they're working with, 3 locations in 3 different states. So that's obviously huge. They've already busted to the scene in other countries, but in the U.S., this is their first paid pilot. So that's their Cactus product that they kind of let off with. The next big thing, though, is actually humanoid robotics. So what they're doing is allowing you, like, let's say you just like walk around a location with your phone, you take some videos, you can then that'll take that imagery, create like a map that the robot can now walk into a location, essentially scan a QR code, so you can. It's not hosted in a centralized server. Okay, so it's hosted in a decentralized way, so you don't have to worry about your information from your business, your internal business, being on some centralized server that everyone has access to, or people can gain access to. And the robot can come into an environment that's never been before and navigate it. And I think one of the things that people need to realize is when you look at what Tesla is doing, okay, you got Figure, they're creating their own individual robots. If they control the software on that, how do they navigate amongst each other in the real world? And Aoki is kind of creating this real world web layer so that all robotics of different types can all kind of intermingle and like kind of navigate amongst each other in these locations in a decentralized way. And they've had several large Chinese robotics companies come into their office. They're like, hey, we're able to manufacture these things at scale now, but we need to make them useful in the real world. And Aoki, just really in the last few months especially, has kind of hit this inflection point where they're getting mass adoption, and these companies are coming in and they're just like, this is exactly what we're looking for. So they are making some serious waves. They also had another customer announcement this week, a $16 billion real estate giant. So they're continuing to just make waves in the space, man. And what are we sitting at? Like 1.5 cents. So
yeah, it's not. Their token hasn't. It's on sale at the moment. Like if you think, again, not financial advice, but if you're bullish on the idea of robots being able to navigate inside and there being a sort of a let's say like a kind of like a standard for robots, irrespective of manufacturer, to be able to navigate indoors, which seems like a total no-brainer to me, then the token's on sale at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not financial advice, but they just launched their token like last August. So just over a year ago. It hasn't had its moment yet. If you look at the all-time here,
I think it's 5 cents was the all-time, or maybe 5.5 cents, something like that.
So right around there. So this is one that, especially over the last few months, I personally have been DCAing these dips. Like anytime we see a dip, I've been adding just pretty regularly over the last few months while we've been in this extreme fear mode. But man, they've got the use case. They're also, by the way, working with the virtual reality like glasses. So there's some glasses now that are open source they're working with that are super lightweight. And Nils actually posted this the other day. He was like wearing them. He's like, man, you could wear these all day. They're super light. And then they're creating like another layer where like people are able to build applications, right, that work within their ecosystem, within their Cactus product. So you're going to have a lot of people building useful applications, useful products within their ecosystem. And the amount of traction they're getting right now is insane. So
what do the glasses do? Is they're like AR or VR? Like, is it to augment?
No, so you probably saw this, like Amazon just put out like a post the other day that, their employees will be able to wear glasses when they look at different, package, whatever. They'll be able to see like things pop up that help them, navigate their job.
Right.
So Aoki is essentially, like, think about this. Like, if you're walking, if you have these VR glasses on, or these glasses on, you're walking through, instead of having your phone and having to videotape things, you can basically perceive your environment. That's going to automatically be able to allow your robot to navigate with you, right? It's going to be able to know exactly where you are. You'll be able to, kind of have that communication layer with your robot. So there's a number of different things you're going to be able to do with that. So they're really hitting it on a lot of different ways. I mean, you got the cactus, you get the phone, right? So the phone was like kind of the first way to perceive environments. They've got the glasses they're working with that are open source. And then, they're working on the actual robotics, the humanoid robotics, and other types of robotics. So it's all about this perception layer. And that's the one thing, like, everyone's like obsessed with, what do the robots look like? Can they stand up? Can they box each other? The boxing match, now it's about, hey, how do they navigate their environment? How can we make them useful? And how can we make sure that they can all navigate that environment amongst each other, amongst different manufacturers, right? And that perception layer, I think, is the big opportunity that people are kind of missing. But that is what Aoki is capitalizing on, and they've got a big head start. This is not something they just started, right? They've been working on this for years. And Nils, man, that guy doesn't stop. I don't even know if he sleeps. Like, that guy is constantly going. And I'd recommend getting their Discord every Friday morning. They do a community update, and they share alpha like every week. It's like, oh, another customer this week. It's nonstop. Those guys just continue to build. I think Nils in like San Francisco right now. So that guy, he does not stop, man. If there's somebody you want leading your project, like, that's the type of personality you want.
Right.
He's like kind of like an Elon type guy, where he's just like, he just continues to build, and he's passionate about it. You love to see it.
Endless energy and high attention to detail. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I am definitely very bullish on Aoki Labs. Do you want to talk about, is there anything else you want to talk about there, or should we move on to GeoNet?
We can go to GeoNet. That's good. I mean, I'll just say, like, make sure that Aoki's on your radar, guys. Like, I would highly encourage getting involved in their community. They have a very strong community. Follow their X page, get involved in their Discord, man, because they share a lot of alpha in there. So highly encourage everyone to check them out, because I think they're going to be one of the major leaders in robotics. Not just in DePIN, but like they're bridging in with a lot of these Chinese manufacturers, man. I think the opportunity there is absolutely huge.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's the kind of play with releasing stuff open source, really, isn't it? Where there's, like, it just gets into more hands. There's more developers. There's more of a ecosystem straight away, because it's, the jumpstart is available. So essentially, everybody starts to build on top of your tech. All right, cool.
Okay, let's talk about GeoNet, guys.
Sure.
So GeoNet is basically creating this network where you get very precise location data. So a little bit of background here on the technology side of things. So you guys have probably heard of GPS, right? Or maybe Galileo if you're over in Europe. So they're called GNSS, or Global Navigational Satellite Systems, and there are a number of them across the world. So you've got really these top four are global networks. You've got Japan and India have regional networks. So you can't get coverage across all over the world, but these are all these satellite systems that you can connect to. If you look at how many satellites are in each one, for these global ones, GPS has 31 operational. This is updated as of 2023. So you have some that kind of, they go out and they have to replace them. They put new ones up, whatever. But these are generally, you have between 25 to 32, I think, is normally how many are operational.
Right.
But they're obviously spanning across, the globe. And then if you want to determine your location, you have to connect to minimum four satellites.
Right. I thought it was 3 to triangulate essentially your location, right? So they can tell. But it's
you've got 3 that triangulate, and then you've got 1 that has the timing aspect of it. So to kind of get your position.
Right.
So the problem with GPS and these satellite systems, though, is they're only accurate within a couple meters because you have a number of factors, right? You have multipath, where the signal is reflecting off of different surfaces. You have like different particles in the atmosphere that they can reflect off of. Especially if you're in a city, you notice sometimes you can't get your location if you're using GPS because you have buildings all around you, right? You can't get a clear signal. Right. But it's accurate within a couple meters, as I mentioned earlier. So, if you're just like driving, you're looking for directions from one location to the next, that's fine. But there are a lot of what's that?
Yeah. It depends on where you are. If you're in the mountains, it can be you can find yourself on the wrong way for a while before you get reconnected.
Sure.
Not a good example in the case of GeoNet, but yeah, I think cities is probably a more useful kind of use case to look at. But yeah, in the cities, GPS can be awful as well.
Yeah. I mean, even though if you have a great GPS signal, you're still not able to get more than, enough accuracy,
right,
for certain use cases, right? So what GeoNet's doing is they're using something called RTK, or real-time kinematics. So you can put this base station down on Earth, and it works in conjunction with the satellites, with these different satellite systems we just covered, and it corrects for that margin of error. So it allows you, instead of to have 2 meters of accuracy, you can get within 1 to 2 centimeters of accuracy. So you get very precise location data. This is really big for a number of use cases. You've got drone surveys, for example. I used to work in the drone service space, actually, but if you're using a drone, you need to be within you need to have extreme precision. So the drone can basically connect to this GeoNet network and be able to get really precise, location accuracy. And then you have agriculture. Okay, so if you're looking to spray your crops using autonomous farming equipment, which you're seeing more and more of, even the U.S. Department of Agriculture is actually using GeoNet, by the way. But they can get very precise locations for their agricultural equipment. And of course, robotics is the next big one that you're going to see. It really come in handy because robots are going to you need to know exactly where that robot is, right? Like they can access the maps, but GPS, like you said earlier, like that's okay. But when it comes to like autonomous vehicles, if you're driving the car, it's okay within a couple of meters of accuracy. You can see where the lanes are and everything. But autonomous vehicles, you need a lot more precision than that. So good.
Also, an example that's like available right now, just kind of to help maybe people understand. Like if you're living in the city somewhere and you've got a robot lawnmower, I've been looking at getting one, and I've been doing a lot of research on them. And most of the ones today, you've got to put up this boundary, essentially, and then that tells the robot, "Oh, this is the edge of the grass. Like, don't go any farther, or you're going to shred the flower bed, basically, or whatever."
Yeah, it's like a high-end.
You can't obviously use GPS for that because it's just nowhere near close enough. But definitely in the future, like that boundary line thing is a total pain in the ass. That is not a good system. Like from a systems design perspective, it kind of works. But the actual technology that's powering the robot that's cutting the grass is far more advanced than that is, if you know what I mean. So the natural evolution there, to my mind, is something like GeoNet, where the robot can connect to that and know exactly where it needs to go. It'll have already mapped out its it's the space that it needs to kind of maintain. So that's just a silly kind of example that's like active today.
Yeah, they actually have a direct partnership with a couple of autonomous lawn mowing companies. I did an overview video on my YouTube channel, actually, and I did bring that use case up. because otherwise you just have like basically a high-end Roomba that's just bouncing around, So yeah, GeoNet, guys, it's going to be incredibly important for a lot of different industries, but especially robotics. I mean, that's the big thing. And Mike Horton, actually, he's been talking about, because I've had him on an interview a couple times and on some of my spaces. He's the CEO of GeoNet. And he's been talking about robotics for like years with me. And a couple of years ago, I was like, yeah, robotics, now I'm like, oh, now I get it. Like he knows, he's so cued into what's going on. And if you look at their maps, so they're using a token incentive model to get people to set up these base stations all over the world. So on Tuesday, when I had this pulled up, it was like 20,972. So they already had 14 deployed in the last 2 days. But if you look at their coverage, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, incredibly impressive coverage all over the world, to the point where they now are having customers dictate where these things are going, because they're like, hey, we need coverage in this area, as opposed to them building out the supply and finding the customers. They've got to a point now where it's the other way around, man. They need coverage in certain areas. They don't have it yet. They have very good coverage, though. Obviously, as you can see here, like we'll pull up the Explorer here in a second. Here we go.
Not so much in Russia.
Yeah, not too much in Russia. Yeah. Let's see here. So they got over 5,300 cities. They have 152 countries covered, and they're getting a lot of usage, man. If you look at their burns, so in their tokenomics, 80% of all revenue goes to buying tokens in the open market, by the way. So it creates buy pressure on the token, which is good. And then they burn it out of the supply forever. So you can see this upward trajectory of token burns, obviously, in revenue. And let's see here. The other thing I want to talk about, though, is that they have a halving event at the end of every June. So they're getting actually very close to being net deflationary, meaning that they're burning more tokens than are going out to deployers. So that's obviously huge. And I think right here I had it. Yeah. So here's the halving. So you can see was 48 geode per day. Now it's 24, then 12. And now this next July, it'll drop to 6. So emissions are going down. Token burns and revenue are going up. I mean, you do the math there.
Yeah.
And here's the
supply shrinking and demand is increasing. And look, that's all you need. You need supply shrinking and demand increasing.
That's the goal, man. They already have 25 million tokens, so roughly over 2.5% of their supply is burned forever. So that is absolutely huge. So like something's got to give here. I mean, we're in extreme fear. One of the silver linings of that is, as you have revenue come in, that goes to buy tokens, right? So that let's say it's $100,000 in burns. The lower that token price is, the more tokens get burned. So, while we're in these extreme fear environments and the markets are just getting pounded, that is one silver lining here, is that you're going to see more tokens taken out of supply while that price is down. But at a certain point, guys, like especially with the emissions cut in half, something's got to give here. I mean, this is actually, I believe, GeoNet is my biggest DePIN holding. And I'm super excited about where they're going. They've also got the leadership. They've got all the aspects that you look for, really, when it comes to, to a project to be successful. And they've launched a couple other products on there as well, for like, surveying. They've got a device you can put in your car to get really precise locations while you're driving. And they just actually announced this yesterday with Helium Deploy. They got a new app. It's kind of like a Pokemon Go style app. That's going to be pretty cool. That launches December 3rd. So they're going to gamify some stuff. And they're moving over to Solana. Solana's going to be their main chain. And They were launched on Polygon originally. I think that's one of the reasons why they haven't seen the token go crazy yet. I mean, because you look at GeoNet's token, 14.5 cents.
Sorry, did you say it was on Polygon or Polkadot? Polygon.
Polygon is what they originally launched on. But they are making Solana their main chain now. So they've started that transition. And there's a number of reasons for that. Number one, like liquidity is over there. Solana right now is making DePIN a major priority. So they're giving them a lot of support. Also, the Solana Seeker phone that came out has direct integration into GeoNet's network. So a lot of reasons. And now with the liquidity there, it's going to be a lot easier, and especially with the Seeker phone, they're going to have a lot more token holders. Those things matter when you're looking at centralized exchange listings. So it's going to really be instrumental in them getting some big exchange listings, because to this point, if we look at the markets here, they're on Gate,
yeah,
but they're not on any other major centralized exchange, any centralized exchanges. So that's kind of like the perfect project to look for right now. Like, this is the time to be hunting for gems, man. Like, some of the best returns I got were, projects that I bought in 2022 and 2023 that do crazy multiples. Like, GeoNet has all the things you're looking for, right? It has the product market fit, it has the revenue, has the leadership, the tokenomics are solid. But they haven't had their moment yet. And I think a lot of that is because, they got up to 36 cents, but they were on Polygon. They weren't getting centralized exchange listings. They weren't that accessible. And then, you add that they're hitting robotics. They're going to be instrumental there. And we're about to see, I think, a big flow into robotics, capital flows. This is one that I think has personally been undervalued. That's why I have built a pretty big position here.
Yeah, if you look at the 1 year chart versus the all-time chart, the all-time chart looks a lot healthier than the 1 year chart. Why do you think they've been taking a dip since, I don't know, what is that, May-ish, maybe end of April? Seems to have been taking a bit of a dip.
I mean, you look at any DePIN chart.
It's pretty lousy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, alts have been in a bear market since January, man. Like, Bitcoin has obviously seen new all-time highs this year. I mean, I can talk about this for a while as to why I think this is. I mean, alts have been absolutely destroyed this year, aside from some large caps. I mean, Ethereum had a little bit of a run. I think that was around the Genius Act and the stablecoin bill that got passed. You had some large DAT start really accumulating, and then the spot ETFs, right? Solana had a nice run.
Well, BNB as well was killing it at one stage.
Yeah, of course they are. CZ, the number one market manipulator. BNB tokens done really well. I don't want to talk about that, but we'll keep it positive. Yeah, so you've got Solana actually hit a new all-time high market cap at the end of September. Not price though. You gotta remember they have 7% inflation every year. But I mean, you've seen some large caps do well. A lot of that though, it's been institutional money flows, right? You have to have those two catalysts where you have spot ETFs or DATs, and then some type of legislation as a catalyst. So we haven't seen that. I mean, retail's been kind of wiped out since the meme coins got crushed earlier this year. And there hasn't been a way for institutional money to flow into DePIN projects. So I think that could change, right? We're seeing the Solana spot ETFs get approved. A lot of the DePIN projects are built on Solana. You've got a number of spot ETFs now getting approved. Fidelity just had theirs. They're the biggest Solana spot ETF so far. And then the market structure bill, or the Clarity Act, is expected to get passed potentially by the end of the year. Right. So I think you're seeing, though, the tides are turning here. There are a lot of capital investments that announced into DePIN over the last, really, I guess, 5 or 6 weeks. DePIN just got mentioned directly by the SEC as not going to be classified as a security. So things are aligning now. You have Helium that just announced that they're going to be looking to launch a digital asset treasury. So that's going to be the first DePIN that has a DAT that gives a way for institutional money to start flowing into DePIN projects. Aether just got added to a balance sheet. So we saw a DePIN project for the first time get added to a publicly traded company's balance sheet. So to answer your question, why is this down? Well, I think it's the nature of market conditions. But when you look at the GeoNet is down 44%, a lot of other DePIN projects are down 80, 90%. So they've done actually, by comparison, better, still ugly. But I don't think it's the fundamentals. And to me, Now is when I'm looking for market inefficiencies. Which projects are undervalued, and can you take advantage of? Markets get overheated. That's generally a time to take profits. When you can find undervalued projects in times like these are when I'm looking to add personally.
Yeah, 100%. And it wasn't a criticism of GeoNet. I mean, I think, like you say, if you look at any DePIN chart, pretty much it's best case scenario pretty flat. And I guess I was just wondering, in this particular instance, given so much about them, you're a holder, if there was a particular reason, if there was something that happened this year that was might shine a light on why, especially considering it sounds like their tokenomics are really, really dialed in. I'm going to have to do a much deeper dive on their tokenomics because I really love it. I've worked with so many companies since 2017, like in a consultative fashion or in a CMO fashion. And yeah, it's just like sometimes the tokenomics just aren't thought about enough early enough, particularly on the buy sell pressure side of the thing. So
yeah, I was actually, I talked to Mike pretty regularly. We catch up on weekends sometimes. I was give him a shout or he'll call me. And we were talking about the tokenomics, and he's like, maybe. I mean, we might have been too aggressive with burning 80%. I don't know. He's like, but he's like, that's the way to go. And the open market buys is the way to go. I mean, I do think, by the way, when they left Polygon, we did see a little bit of a sell-off there. I think some of maybe the Polygon people that have been holders over there maybe sold when they announced their kind of transitioning to Solana. But again, those are the types of things I look for. So I'm like, I'm buying that up, man.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be buying something when it's going parabolic and green all day.
Yeah. That's a tough lesson. I feel like a lot of that's a mistake a lot of retail makes. A mistake I've made in the past for sure. So, but you're 100% right on that. So yeah, GeoNet, man, they're also being integrated into a lot of other projects. You got like Wingbits, Rover, which we'll talk about here in a minute.
Yeah.
So other projects are tapping into, because a lot of these projects, if you're collecting data, you need to have precise location of that data. You need to also be able to make sure that people aren't gamifying your network, so you can prove their location. Well, a lot of them are integrating GeoNet so they can, their projects can actually use the GeoNet network for location verification. So that's pretty cool. Okay. I don't know if you want to move on to Rover, or do you want to add anything else on GeoNet?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think it's the way I think about it is it's the outdoor alky, basically. From an actual use case perspective.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, the only other thing I would say, and we don't have to dive into it too deeply, but just in terms of other projects in this kind of space of navigation, perception, and how the robots, in particular, how the robots interact with each other is Peak, which I just want to mention kind of at a very low level. I like this project. I think they've had some, I'd say at the moment, community sentiment wise, there's probably a bit of a mixed bag out there. However, I think there's a few things about Peak that I really love. First of all, just, as a marketer, I really appreciate their marketing. I think it's great.
They have great marketing, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I think also they have had some really, I've been digging into them a little bit in the last while, and they have had some really big, I would say, milestones happen this year. Like in Q3, they had 500% transaction growth. So between July and September. So that's up from something like 30,000 daily TX up to 150K, something like that.
Plus or minus for like people buying and selling the token, you mean like volume of their token?
No, this is daily transactions on their chain. Because they're a what's it called? A Polkadot parachain.
Okay.
As I understand it.
Well, I think they start there and then they're their own chain though, right?
Their own chain now, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. Well, anyways, so machines on their chain making payments to each other, right? So yeah, the function basically of Peak is to provide machine IDs, passports essentially for the robots, and then and then payment rails so that they can financially interact with each other. So an example scenario might be a rover mapped truck, may pay a GeoNet station for location data or something like that. So it's kind of powering the economy between machines, essentially. So I don't know, just in the context of robotics, this again is another one of the ones which seems essential. Now there could be other or new players in the space, or better players in the space. It's not an area I know a huge amount about yet, but it's an area that's absolutely fundamental in my view. And for the purposes of today's show, I just wanted to touch on them a little bit because I think it's an interesting project. They've also built or are involved with the world's first tokenized robo farm in Hong Kong, which is semi-autonomous. It's a semi-autonomous vertical farm in Hong Kong, completely powered by AI and robotics, tokenized via NFTs on Peak, and they're projecting an 18% annualized yield payout to token holders. So it's a very, very interesting, really, really interesting kind of view into what the future might look like for farming, I think. And definitely worth taking a look if that's something that's of interest to any of you watching. They also did they've also had a formal MOU, memorandum of understanding, I believe, with Dubai's Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority to create the world's first regulated machine economy free zone. So Dubai, they love to create, actually a lot of UAE, they love to create all these free zones for various things, business, crypto, etc. So I think, that's an interesting one to take a look at as well. And and apparently since Q1, or apparently by Q1 of 2025, they had a 789% surge in machine onboarding. So again, that's the new machine addresses jumped between Q4 and Q1, so Q4 2024 and Q1 2025. So that's a huge jump, obviously, all of which I'm just taking as bullish indicators towards a growth area, particularly in the context of what we're talking about today, which is obviously robotics.
I think Peak, they have a huge community. I think that if you're talking about robotics, you have to bring them up for sure. They do an amazing job with marketing. They have their website's super slick. I think, if they don't do, somebody's going to do it. I mean, it's important for sure. I'm personally not a Peak holder, but I know a lot of people in the community are very excited about the project. So I do think you have to bring it up for sure and talk about it. So, are you a Peak holder yourself?
I have a little bag of Peak. I've been looking into, just on a personal level, I've been looking into the various robotics, because I'm in the same boat as yourself in the sense that I really do think robotics and AI are like where all the money is going to be made. So it's a question of, like, as a retail investor, how do you get into that? Where's the edge to be found, I suppose, in this stuff? So that's kind of where I've been trying to come at it from.
Sure.
And so I've been doing a fair amount of AI powered research the last while around the various projects, some of which we're talking about today, and others are just interesting to me. The idea of farming in particular is super interesting, because I think, food, how do you make food sustainable for everybody? I just see farming and I suppose war would be the two major kind of areas. There's tons obviously of others, but they would be the two sort of massive use cases where I could imagine, like, robots being, in the very near future, being sort of, hugely popular, a lot of capital flowing in there, I would imagine. So that's what kind of caught my eye in particular about Peak. And I also think as well, a layer one is usually a safe enough bet. And I kind of imagine a world where where in the future we'll be dealing with layer ones that are very much specific use case. When I started, everybody was like, there was Ethereum and Bitcoin, and then there was everything else, which was like the next Ethereum killer and all that kind of stuff. I think we've moved way past that. I don't think Ethereum's going anywhere, and I don't think any of the new chains are a threat to it or any other chains. Personally, I love Solana mostly because of the TPS. I just think as well, also the ecosystem approach that they've taken.
So the Solana is where the building's taking place. So you have Ethereum, the layer twos, though, like base. To me, like that's all my focus right now is on really base and Solana. I mean, I have a little bit of a different theory on the L1s. I think we saw that in the last market cycle. A lot of L1s went absolutely crazy. Like I like Avalanche too. Their price has been pretty brutal, but like, I think there's going to be there will be a number of layer ones that emerge. There's going to be a lot that like die though too. I mean, you look at some of the market caps of some of them, like it's hard to justify a lot of the market caps, in my opinion. But to me, like that was the last market cycle. Was like all the bets were on which L1 is going to be the biggest L1. Like I'm more interested. Okay, what's being built and what's going to be driving revenue? Like that's kind of my focus right now.
100%. I completely agree with you, and I will be investing more and more into various things that I think are going to have a real world flywheel, right? There's a lot of DePIN. All the DePIN talks about a flywheel. So it's like, where is the cash coming in from the real world? How is it turning? How does the token interact with that? And how is there a value accrual over time? Be kind of my main thinking on it. Especially having spent so much of my life up to my nose in tokenomics and just trying to figure out like token economies. So yeah, 100%. I just think, it's a picks and shovels business, the L1. Like, so if you think that there's going to be, like, I don't see robots, all directly transacting with Solana. Maybe I'm wrong, but there just seems to be like a scaling issue there. So I can see a world where like we have purpose-built L1s, and yes, of course, in each of those particular use case silos, for want of a better way to describe it, you're going to have competition, and there's going to be losers because there always is. There'll be, first mover advantage in the projects that get there first or that do the best job earliest. So, anyways, I just think Peak has a solid shot in that space. I could be wrong. It's definitely not financial advice, but from what I've seen so far, I've liked what I've seen, and it's interesting. It's an interesting one for me. So, so I think that wraps up the sort of navigation and perception. Do you want to jump over to training and data and?
Let's talk about one thing I meant to mention about Aoki, by the way, because they just announced this too. Kind of goes in what we were just talking about. They announced this partnership with I think it's Gabe. I don't know, GAIB, but they are directly partnered with this project or this company here, and they're going to be like the economic layer for AI and robotics infrastructure. So bringing assets and robots on chain. It's a little bit like what Peak's doing. So I think there have to be multiple players that do that. But to your point, it's going to be incredibly, incredibly important. The economic layer, bringing robots on chain, is going to be a very, very valuable. So that was a partnership I wanted to bring up because they just announced that within the last week. It's crazy, the partnership announcements they keep having, but
100%. I just if we could pause for a second on that, just because I think there's a really important point there. Like if you think about the world in the future, right? Like in robotics and how are they going to financially interact with each other? It could be through a blockchain and some sort of digital asset technology, or it could be through some sort of a centralized TradFi system that is, quite frankly, going to suck definitely for all of us and for all of you watching. Probably from a UI perspective, you just can't. When you work in this space for long enough, you can't imagine that that would even be an option for somebody developing these platforms. However, like, I'm constantly astounded by the stupidity of decisions that get made out of fear or out of a lack of understanding, etc. So I think, we definitely need all these robots on chain. And DePIN is a great way to get from A to B on that. But yeah,
for sure,
but
for sure.
The banks in Ireland just recently launched. Just to give you an idea, right? These are, I don't know, multi-billion, multi-trillion euro companies, essentially, and they just launched instant payments between each other. Can you imagine that in 2025? If you and I were both had Irish bank accounts, but they were different from each other, there's like 3 pillar banks. I could send you money, and it would take 2 days to get to you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's sorry, I'm sorry, but that is effing insane.
Yeah,
It's
ACH is archaic. Like if we are so overdue to upgrade our financial rails, it's insane. So it's finally happening, which is great. And you know, if we're gonna get to a point though, like with the stablecoin bill, like people are gonna be transacting on chain, but they won't know it, right? To them, they'll just be like, "Oh man, the transfers are instant now," but they don't have to know it's blockchain. I mean, that's the key to bringing people on board, is that they don't have to know that it's blockchain or crypto. They just use it, and their user experience is better. That's what's coming.
My kids are going to be like, what? You had to wait like days to get money? Like, why? What were they doing? Were they?
Yeah, think about that.
Like, it just won't make any sense, you know.
Think about that stuff. I also think about, like, you know, with using AI. You know, they're like, wait, you used a search? You have to search for something. You scroll through, you know, multiple pages of links and figure out like what your search results were.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's
the context of this conversation, there probably never. There's a solid chance. Like my eldest is 5. There's a very. He probably won't ever have to learn how to drive. Realistically,
that's correct.
You know? And he probably won't ever own a gasoline-powered car. You know what I mean? Which is insane when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's also scary in a sense. You know, you watch those movies where it's like, oh, they're all autonomous vehicles. What happens when they shut down the grid? Like, people just can't go places, you know? But to your point, talking about autonomous vehicles. And I think these next few projects we're going to talk about are tapping into that part of robotics. And it's actually, in my opinion, well, not just my opinion, many others. Jensen Huang has this opinion as well. You have Kathy Wood, Elon Musk. This is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry. It's going to be the first multi-trillion-dollar robotics industry as well, and it's going to be the first one that brings the masses into robotics. So, you know, the autonomous vehicle scene is about to explode. We see Tesla, we see Waymos. They're expanding in cities. They might not be in your city yet, but they will be soon enough. But the one thing that people don't realize is we need the data to train those autonomous vehicles. We don't want Tesla to be the only, and Waymo to be the only autonomous vehicle companies out there. There's going to be a lot of players entering this space. The amount of data that's necessary is more than you can even comprehend. And these companies aren't getting enough data. And that's the short of it. So that is where some of these DePIN projects, the next few we're going to talk about here, come into play. They are collecting the data that this multi-trillion-dollar industry hinges on. The first one is Rover. So let me pull them up. Rover's a solid project. Let me see. Let's make that a little bigger there. There we go. So Rover is collecting data. They're collecting LiDAR data.
So this is like 3D Hive Mapper, right?
Yeah, so exactly right. So they've got a unit that basically sends out a laser, sends out lasers around it. Those lasers bounce off of objects, come back, and it's able to measure, basically create a 3D environment around you. And that is what they're doing. So they have a unit that goes on top of the car. Let me see if I can pull that. Here it is. That goes on top of the car, and it has this LiDAR technology. Man, this technology, like even like 5 years ago, it's been like $100,000 unit. Like seriously,
that's wild.
It is wild. So it's a $2,500 unit now. I know they're working on some ways to get these in people's hands without having to put up a bunch of capital. It's something we're starting to see. We'll talk about Hive Mapper in a minute. They did something similar recently. But you know, there's a big misconception out there. People, you know, Waymo uses LiDAR. Tesla is just using visuals. They're not using like cameras. They're not using LiDAR as of now, at least, and it doesn't seem like they're going to go that route. But the big misconception is that LiDAR was used to train those models that Tesla uses on the front end. So while they're not equipped on the cars, the LiDAR is still used to train their models.
Yeah, I think Elon took the view that, if humans can look with their eyes and see things, then the cameras if you put enough processing power behind the cameras will be able to do the same job with enough processing power and the right training in AI.
Yeah.
Yet to see whether that pays off or not.
We'll see. Right now, I think when there's like fog or rain, they're having some issues, but I'm sure they'll work through it. If anyone can work through it, it's Elon. That guy will figure it out, man.
For sure.
But either way, though, LiDAR was still even used by them and training their models. So you can't understate or overstate, rather, how important this data is. And it's also worth noting that they're integrated with GeoNet. So this is one of those projects I was talking about that is using the GeoNet network. So all this hardware they have actually has integration built in. So while you're driving, you're collecting this data. It's actually using the GeoNet network to also make sure that the data you're collecting has very precise location of that data. So when you're creating a physical layer of the world, a 3D map, if you will, you need to know where that collection took place. So, and you look at the tokenomics here, it's worth calling out. Very similar to GeoNets. They have a big burn associated. 60% of the revenue is going to burn rover. I mentioned GeoNet is 80%. That's because 20% goes to buying and burning GeoNet. So GeoNet has direct investment into rover. I think they recently raised about $2.5 million. And this is another one. I interviewed their team on my YouTube channel as well. And they're working very closely with Mike Corden. In fact, I believe they share an office. So this is one that that's someone you want to have on your side. Mike Corden has obviously done a very good job with GeoNet. And he has a stake in rover. So a lot of reasons for them to succeed. And they're the only ones that are really collecting this data set. The other ones we're going to talk about are collecting just with cameras. Mm-hmm. So, you look at sorry, go ahead.
Can we just before we dive into like cameras and the rest of it, I just want to talk about rover for a minute. If that device on the top that you put on your car is $2.5K, presumably it's a node device as well, and by driving around, essentially LiDARing your world and contributing that to their database of mapping, three-dimensional mapping, you're earning rewards in their token.
Yes. So
do we have any information about what kind of
rewards you get?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Is that a profitable endeavor at this point, or?
It is. Yeah. I mean, some of the payouts I'm seeing on the LC or the light cone, that's their higher end model. I think a lot of people are breaking even like a few months. So you can see here, like this is 16 rover per kilometer for the light cone, 1.6 for the Tarantula X. So obviously higher cost for the hardware there, but also better payout. So, so that's in their tokenomics. And then every year there's a halving event. But yeah, I know I am in a Discord group with some people that have set up substantial fleets with rover. Right. And they're doing pretty well.
Is it the same everywhere, or so if you're a fleet or whatever that you've set up, or like even just say like myself and my wife, if we got them and put them on 2 cars and drove around our area, does it change the reward depending on the density of other rover?
At this point, I don't believe so. I mean, you have to think they've started shipping these devices out. They've had 2 batches, I believe. They're sold out right now.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
So it's not like they've gotten a point of oversaturation. So
early days. Yeah.
Yeah. It's still early days, but I know they already have 300 companies in their pipeline, I believe it was, but they already have 30 POCs in place, like proof of concept. So the other thing is they've gotten feedback from their customers that they have an open data set, so that people can kind of go in, kind of like Google with Waymo has open data set. it's not like all the data that you need, but it's enough for you to kind of go in, mess with it a little bit, and decide if you want to actually buy like the full version of their data. And the feedback so far has been that their data set, Rover's rivals, are as better in many ways than Waymo's. So they've gotten some really good feedback. And then when you consider the fact that it's sitting at like a $2 million market cap.
Yeah, it's so early.
Yeah, it's early. This is another.
How many? I know you're very entrepreneurial. So how many taxi companies have you contacted about putting Rover devices on their roof?
You know, I built out a really large Hive Mapper fleet. I haven't been deploying with Rover. I own. I've invested in the Rover token. So I own a fair amount of. I have a fair stake in the project. I mean, really, all the ones we've covered so far, like Aoki. Been adding aggressively to. I have a big geode bag. I've been adding to Rover. I've built a pretty nice bag there as well. I think the only one that don't so far is Peak, but
right.
You know, that's my personal thing. Like I know a lot of people that have a big Peak bag. So not saying it's not a good project. I think it is, but yeah, those three I've obviously built a pretty substantial position in.
Yeah, with this one, I just feel out of my depth, which is the reason I haven't really taken the plunge with Rover. It's not that I think it's a bad company or anything like that. It's just when it comes to there's a number of players it feels like in this space, and it's too hard for me to differentiate. Well, maybe someday I'll go on a deep dive and just disappear for a weekend into the world of LiDAR, and it's just there's multiple technology layers that for me I would want to understand, like, you know, is that the Blu-ray or the sort of, you know, ultra high def or what is it? You know, where does that stack up in the kind of context of where's this technology going? So
yeah, look, I
cautious like that.
I think when you look at how much data needs to be collected by these autonomous vehicle companies, there's gonna be multiple players that can have value here. So in my opinion, like the way I look at Rover is low market cap, tied to GeoNet. Micron has a stake in them. You know, I've interviewed their team. They're solid. They're collecting a differentiated data set in LiDAR, right, from the other ones. And I think there's a market there for them. You know, I did a couple of videos. I did a deep dive recently on them on my channel that I posted recently, and I did a deep dive on their tokenomics. So they do have some inflation coming up. That's something to take into consideration. But for me, like I like the upside. There's some bigger accounts that's starting to take note of them. So it's one that when the market conditions do improve, I think we could see it run potentially, not financial advice. But that's my, I guess, like high level overview of why I've decided to take a stake in Rover.
Yeah, and that's a solish bull case, I would say.
Yeah, I think so, at least.
And are they more geared towards the kind of heavy automation? So like rather than cars and, you know, Waymo's kind of taxis and cars and stuff like that, but are Rover more like, is their goal to eventually, or would the biggest use case be like trucks and autonomous articulated transport and stuff like that? Or is it doesn't really matter? It's just anything that's on the road that can move. Presumably it's just road based.
Yeah. I mean, I think right now it's just, they're mostly looking to just feed data into the companies that are training autonomous vehicle models. So mostly just like road mapping as of right now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's still early stage. Like they're about a little bit over a year into the project. They had their TGE back in, I think, April. So still early stages, but man, that's like, I mean, looking at my investments that have done really well, generally like, hey, getting into early stage projects when you're in a bear market, which again, I would argue at least low cap alts have been in a bear market. Like,
great.
This is generally, you know, your later self will thank you for dialing in right now. Okay. So that's how I'm looking at this. And that's why, you know, my bags are packed and packing them fuller with every dip.
Yeah, and also I just like to say that you're not doing Rover any favors by having the 1 week chart up. If you go to 1 year, it's actually a very healthy looking chart for you know, for DePIN. Like that's
they
pretty solid
had
chart.
well, let's see. Right around they had actually an exploit where one of their wallets got hacked a little bit ago. It was not. Let me see. I can't remember. Oh, it's right here. I actually put out a video about this on my live stream right when this happened. I was like, I am buying. I was like, it was a small, like one of their rewards wallets had some tokens stolen and sold on the open market. So generally when that happens, about like the prospects of the project, I look at that as an opportunity, an outlier event like that, the sell-off, to buy. So I did. 100%. They bounced up with an exchange listing right after that. They've kind of come back down to earth because the market since October 10th has been brutal. But it's one that I think could absolutely bounce back in a big way. So
yeah, 100%. Again, 0.9 of a cent, like, yeah, it's another token that's just on sale.
Yeah, you look at the market cap. I mean, again, they have a lot of unlocks coming up, but the upside still. I mean, if you want to, I have let me pull that up real quick on my channel. If you don't subscribe to me, you guys definitely should.
Yeah, 100%. Let's just take a
man.
moment while you do that.
So I put this one up. 375 AI is another one, but Rover Tokenomics. So do a deep dive there, and then the token is Rover. That's more of a deep dive on Rover itself, and what they're doing. So I've interviewed their team, so I've got that as well. Playlists. So you can go into like interviews. Where's that at? Here we go. So you can see all the interviews. I've had a bunch of founders on, but I've had Rover on too. So encourage you all to get on there. Yeah,
if you guys aren't already subscribed to Bradley's channel, it's at DePIN Connection. Same on X, at DePIN Coffee Hour on X for this show, and should throw at Havelo Official a follow as well if you're on X. And yeah, that's it for the promos on the YouTube channels. What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to go next? Do you want to? Well, I suppose Hive Mapper is probably the obvious choice, right?
Hive Mapper and Nadix, I think we should cover. I mean, those are kind of in the same light, right?
Yeah.
So Hive Mapper is doing something similar, right? They are you can put dash cam in your car, collect imagery, and they just released their B model. I guess that was earlier this year, end of last year, kind of, where they're now doing all the processing at the edge, so they have a lot more compute power in the new B model. And I mean, they've had a lot of customers, man. They've actually really crushed it. If you look at some of the companies they're working with, I mean, they got Volkswagen's training their autonomous vehicle models with Hive Mapper data. Lyft is here. I mean, Mapbox. I mean, you name it, man. So they've been crushing it on the customer.
I didn't even know TomTom were still around.
Like I didn't either until they announced it.
Do you remember those? When you got the old school for your car, you had to get like a little box, and it had that really shitty interface with the map where it never really properly scrolled and had a British accent.
I think like my freshman year of college, like my summer job, I was like a pizza delivery guy, and we used to have to. I'm aging myself on this, but we used to have to open up like a map. You know, it was an actual book. We had the maps, right? You had to, and I had to like memorize my different routes if I was delivering like 7 different places. And I remember like that summer I came back and I had an actual GPS, and it was like a block, man. The thing was huge, and people were like, "Oh my god, what is that?" And I remember the other drivers, the old school drivers, were like, "Oh, you need GPS," blah blah, like dogging on me for not being able to memorize. I was like, I can memorize the maps if I want to, man.
Yeah,
you know, telling me to get off your lawn, bro. Like, get with the times. And now it's in your phone. Everyone uses it, you know.
Yeah,
100%.
That's how it goes.
It's funny, man. But yeah, so Hive Mapper, they've done really well on the execution side as far as getting customer announcements, building out tools on the back end. This is one that, I got in very early stages on Hive Mapper. I built a fleet out of 100 drivers, the Uber and Lyft drivers across most of the U.S. I had some down in like South America too. They've done a really good job of getting their hardware to be passive. There's still a couple of things they need to work through as far as like fleet tools for sure. But one of the things they did recently, and I mentioned this when we were talking about Rover, they partner with Helium, so they have connectivity now built in through Helium, and for people that wanted to buy hardware, it's like a $400 camera, right? So what they did is they just raised a bunch of capital recently that allow them to do this now. So instead of having to pay up front for hardware, you can pay $19 a month. You have the dash cam with built-in connectivity through Helium, and it kind of removes that upfront cost. And I think it's gonna be really big for them with companies that have big fleets, because they've now built in fleet tools on the back end too. So going and talking to a company that has 100 vehicles in their fleet, as opposed to having to come up with 40, 50 grand. Now it's like, hey, you don't have any upfront costs. You can just put these things in for $19 a month. You get the fleet tools you need. You earn Honey token. Like, that changes that conversation quite a bit. So that's all big, man. They've been executing. The one thing I'll say where they've caught a lot of flack is on the tokenomics. And this is something they announced just yesterday. They're doing open market buybacks now, just like Helium is doing. But they also are a lot more transparent. So they actually gave the SoulScan link. You can see their buybacks happening and burns happening on chain. This is something that I host their AMAs every quarter with Ariel, their CEO, and this is something I've been pounding the table on. Like, hey, open market buys, burns, it needs to be transparent. And yesterday they made the announcement they're doing it. So hey, high mapper price has been not fantastic. What is this? What's going on here? We see today.
Yeah, 24 hours looks good. The 1 year doesn't look super great.
We've been on
turn in the tide.
Yeah. So the open market buys, I mean, maybe this is the bias here. So we've seen this with Helium, right? They announced open market buys on October 18th. We've seen H&T is up like 20% still since then. So this is since we've been on the live stream, this peaked up here. So the open market buys make a difference, man. I would say we could see Honey bounce back for sure. I think that's a big change that is worth bringing up, because they've executed on every other front, in my opinion. It's just like the token has been kind of beat down. I think this change yesterday announced should make a difference, in my opinion.
It was only announced yesterday.
That was announced yesterday, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a feature of 2025. To be honest, I think obviously buyback and burns have been around for a while. It's pretty much always available on chain. Obviously it has to be, but yeah, it seems like just from a general tokenomics at the start of this year, I would say the landscape in the other projects that I looked at was quite different from today. And obviously now I have more exposure to a lot more DePIN projects through this show and the show that we do every week. But I've a lot of the founders, when I've had them on, have talked about, oh yeah, we're going to reissue our tokenomics. We've got an updated version, and invariably it's an updated version that thinks a lot more and says a lot more about what they're doing to address buy pressure.
Yeah, look, I've been pretty vocal about this since Helium made the change. I had Ariel on a space and was vocal with it there too. And I'm glad they made this change. It's been something missing. I mean, you look at DePIN charts, the last market cycle, like a lot of projects just pumped based on speculative investors, right? I mean, the problem though is if a lot of them were burning tokens from their treasury, which is cool, but we haven't seen that burning tokens in and of itself has been enough to support token price.
No.
The problem is there's nothing to offset the sell pressure. I mean, you have these models where you're giving out tokens to people for participating. A lot of them have to cover their costs, right? So they're going to sell as they earn.
Yep.
There's nothing to offset that sell pressure. Well, now if the revenue coming in, at least a percentage of that is going to buying tokens in the open market, that helps to offset that sell pressure. To the extent that some people are going to be more likely to hold the tokens probably instead of selling every week.
Exactly.
Now that they know that there's a new buyer that's stepping in fundamentally from the revenue. But I also think it's going to bring in even more speculative investors now. They can say, okay, the fundamentals are tied to the token price. Like I looked like when Helium made that announcement on October 18th, I went on a live stream immediately on my channel. I was like, hey, I'm buying here. That was $1.81. That's aged pretty well so far. That was a fundamental change, in my opinion, that changed my investment thesis. And I think other people are going to see that and start investing in these projects now. And other, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if your protocol gives away your token as a reward for whatever the participation is, that is, you have to account for that as sell pressure, 100% of it. And maybe it's not 100% sell pressure, and then your token price goes up, but you have to account for it in the sense of it being, you have to assume it's going to be 100% sell pressure, because as you said, people have bills they have to pay. So you have to have some mechanism to increase buy pressure to counteract that. And I think for any project, I think if you've got, like, if you can you should tie the revenue that you're making as a project or as a company or whatever, it should be tied to the token somehow. And the easiest, like, simplest way to do that is say, we're going to take this percentage of revenue or profit, whatever, and we're going to turn it into an open market buy and burn.
Or even just an open
market buy, is better than nothing.
I remember said just look at our recent post. Let's see here. HiveMapper Solana Mobile.
Welcome to the show, HiveMapper. We're talking about you.
Yeah, I must have seen that. Solana Ventures. What is this? So they have a grant. To fund interesting projects for Seeker and HiveMapper. Huh. That's pretty cool. So they have looks like they have a direct partnership with Solana Mobile and the Seeker phone. All right. Cool. That's cool. Yeah, guys, look, I think, to me, again, I guess the best way to put this is when you're just burning tokens out of a treasury and the sell pressure is happening from contributors, you're kind of siloed, right? By all of a sudden, when the revenue is buying tokens to the open market, you're introducing a new buyer. That is Web 2 money. You look at their customers, right? That's Web 2 money now that's become a buyer of your token. You're now introducing outside capital to become a new buyer of your token. And that, to me, is such a fundamental difference. And that's why I think we're seeing a lot of these tokens are going to start doing a lot better when you introduce that into your ecosystem. So I think it's going to become the new standard. Helium has led the way in a lot of aspects. They've been a pioneer in the space. I think we're seeing that it's working right now for H&T. We've seen it bounce back in the worst of market conditions since making that change. And I think it's going to be something that, for me personally, if I'm looking at projects to invest in, like that's going to be one of the things that I look for in the tokenomics.
Yeah, 100%. All right, do you want to talk about Natix? And
let's pull up Natix. Natix do something similar. I would say they have like an app on your phone that you can collect imagery with. To me, that's not sustainable. You need it to be passive. We saw this with HiveMapper. They learned that early on. They made theirs passive. So this is really where Natix is, I think, their value is. They have a device you can plug in if you have a Tesla. It accesses your Tesla cameras. And that's kind of where they're getting their data from. So look, they're doing the same thing. Again, there's multiple players that can work in this space getting data for autonomous vehicles. It's not going to be just one. Like, the amount of data that's necessary is massive. So I think, with HiveMapper, I have a bag in that. I don't own Natix myself. I think I know a lot of people that do. I think it's something that could still do well, for sure, based on the market they're in. For me, the main reason I don't and not to FUD Natics. I think their team is really good. Okay, they have a really solid team. This just kind of makes me a little bit nervous that they're completely reliant on being able to collect data from Teslas. I don't think that'll get cut off at any point in time, but if it did, that's definitely a threat in my opinion. But ultimately, I don't think
eggs in one basket.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge likelihood to happen by any means. And I think we could see it definitely bounce back. I believe they have real customers. And I think the team is they have a really, really good team. I'll say that much. But another player in the space, for me, I've really consolidated my portfolio into what I think will be the big winners. But this is something that, if I was a little bit more spread out, I'm sure I would have some exposure to. But I know a lot of people that are big Natics believers, and I think it is still a very solid project.
Yeah, 100%. I like the idea of the real-time path planning. So I think that's going to be interesting, because I think, it's all well and good having maps and all the rest of it, and again, just in the context of robotics, if you've got, I don't know, fully autonomous level 4, level 5 robo taxis driving you from here, there, and everywhere, you definitely want them to be able to know the quickest way to get from A to B, not just because of it's the least distance, but also because it knows that at the moment there's a parade happening over there, or there's some event that's caused roads to be closed, or there's been a crash, so I don't know. I think, I don't know. I just think it'd be interesting if it's more real time and it can, real time path planning basically. So anyways, long story short, it's definitely an interesting project, and one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Let's see here. I've got another space at the top of the hour, but I do want to touch on Rice AI and Ex Machina. Are there any other ones you want to touch on before we cut out?
Not really. I just kind of wanted, maybe we should mention SkyTrade, but yeah, just because I feel like that's something that's interesting. I don't know if it's a really that's really down the risk curve in terms of early stage, I would say, but something I think people should be aware of as a possibility. So yeah, we can. Do you want to just dive into Rice AI first? And
let's do Rice AI and Ex Machina, and then we can end the show with you covering that one, if that works for you.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Go for it.
So Rice AI, they are in robotics. They're an earlier stage one, but looks like here they're in the NVIDIA Inception program. I bring them up because they are actually sharing an office with Aoki. So they're also working in conjunction with Aoki. And to me, like when I'm looking at that, hey, correct connection with Aoki, $3.65 million market cap. Like the upside there seems to be massive enough that it's worth maybe taking a flyer on this guy. And again, Aoki, the fact they're sharing a office with Aoki, I think says enough in and of itself. Let's see what the all-time charts look like. So this thing did get up to 22 cents. Wow. So this is something I don't have a bag yet, but I'll probably get one just because the upside. The fact they're in there with Aoki, Robotics, small cap, they've been up a lot higher in the past. Some big buyer stepped in at some point. So, and even the fully diluted is only 17. So to me, this is probably one I'll take a flyer on. The other one is Ex Machina. And, I'm actually going to get them on for an interview on my channel. Let me make this a little bit taller here. So, one of the things that we talked about earlier was like, hey, you want to invest in robotics. We've got the DePIN projects, but outside of that, like a lot of privatized robotics companies, it's really hard to invest in, man. And they're looking to flip the script there. So what they're actually doing through a DePIN protocol is pooling capital. And by pooling capital, they can now get access to investments within robotics. As opposed to you trying to individually do it, you can do it in conjunction with them. So I think it's a pretty freaking cool concept, man. and you can sign up. So there's Get Deuce here. You can sign up to be notified. What's that?
Deus.
Is it
Deus
Deus?
Ex Machina. Yeah, the Deus Ex Machina is a Latin, I think, originally. God in the machine or something like that.
Okay, gosh.
I have to look it up because I'm pretty sure there was a PlayStation game as well at one stage.
I'm glad you corrected me on that because I've been saying Deuce, so Deus. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can opt in for auction alerts. So basically what they've done, they've had several auctions to this point. They haven't launched the token yet. But at the beginning they did, it was a peak. So here are the waves. So the beginning it was like peak. They've since switched over to USDC, but wave 1.5, they raised 500,000, $1 million in wave 2, 3 million in wave 3. So there will be more waves. So you can kind of get alerts. So when those open up, if you want to, invest some USDC, again, there's, you can see the different USDCs. So this, you can see how much they, wait, is the Deus token launched? I don't think so. Let's see. I don't think it is.
No, it's not. Well, if it is, it's not on CoinMarketCap yet anyway.
Okay. So yeah, you can put in USDC. You can get basically a percentage ownership in this. And the whole thing is like you don't have to have millions of dollars. Like you can get pooled in so that it opens up investment opportunities for you that you wouldn't have otherwise in robotics. So that's the whole concept there. And I think it's a great idea, man. I really do.
Right.
So yeah, here are the different.
Yeah, I
waves.
like that as well.
3 million in wave 3, 1,500,000. So yeah. So I am set up for alerts on this now. So I do plan on partaking in the next wave. I think it's a cool concept, and again, there should be some big opportunities for them to capitalize on, in my opinion.
Cool.
Whew. All right, you want to cover yours, and then we can close this thing out.
Yeah, just just two quick things. So first of all, SkyTrade, I guess I can share my screen, although I don't have a huge amount to share with this. I just want to show you guys the website. So the basic idea is it's air right assets on crypto rails, basically. So really stupid example, but just to kind of make it as simple as I can think of how to make it. You own the air above your house potentially, and if there's drones zipping back and forth, dropping off Amazon parcels and bringing other people Chinese dinners or whatever, takeaway food, I don't know, whatever is going to be going past, taxis potentially, can they fly over your house nonstop? And if yes, like surely you should benefit from that access. So that's the idea. Again, this is a real flyer. Like I think this is very early days. I don't think they have a token out yet or anything like that. It's just one I wanted to say. I thought it was a cool idea. It'd be very interesting to see what happens more longer term with it.
Yeah,
that's all I want to say on that.
I'd like to make money off the sky above my house.
Well, yeah, as long as the drones aren't super loud. That was the other thing I was thinking. Well, yeah, but what if they're like, what if the trade-off is, because I work from home, so what if the trade-off is I have to listen to it all day long? Anyways, I don't know. It's going to be one of those interesting things. I think it makes a lot more sense where, at an industrial level or a business level, potentially where you've got a lot of land and, I don't know, it could be a new income stream for farmers or, large industrial complexes, etc. So that was one I wanted to talk about. There's a few others as well, but I think that's good enough for today. And then I kind of wanted to sort of round things out by maybe just very quickly talking about like where are we at with things at the moment, because I think we're largely at L2, L3 in terms of autonomy. So in other words, humans have to pay attention.
Yeah, look,
robots are doing.
I think China's the big market right now. We're going to see the U.S. is going to be trying to catch up, I think, pretty quickly, and we have some companies I think that are capable of it. Autonomous vehicles and autonomous taxis are going to be the big first industry. It's also going to, I think, one of the things we need to realize too with that though is it's going to decimate the gig economy, which is, in my opinion, I think a lot of our country has kind of been in a recession, a lot of people, but that's going to really, I think, have a very negative impact. Like
maybe not though. Like if you're an Uber driver, instead of driving your Uber, now you've got a Uber that drives itself.
Yeah, I mean, the big difference though, so like Tesla, right? If you own a Tesla, you can send it out to drive. But think about how many people own Teslas that are going to send them out to drive now, right? I think there's gonna be a lot more competition.
Right.
Yeah, so I take a different stance on this. Like you look at 2008 versus now, the gig economy has been a route for employment for a lot of people. A lot of Uber and Lyft drivers out there. A lot of people doing DoorDash, etc. Like that's going to absolutely, I think, decimate the gig economy. And I think that's one thing people aren't talking about enough is that we're going to see it's going to be everyone talks about robots taking your jobs. That's going to be the first industry that's going to be a huge focal point for this, man. Like, so I think, investing in it now and the data that's needed for it, right? I think making these investments is a really good move, but I think there are going to be some negative ramifications from it, but it is going to be the first one that we really see, the big emerging use case. And then humanoids will come, man. I mean, we're going to have specialized robots to build things. Like they say that the big jobs right now are in the trades, man. Like electricians are going to be in high demand. There's a lot of jobs right now that are actually going to be, I think, very much sought after. But
already is here. Electricians and trades are killing it here from the point of view of cheapers. If you have to get an electrician to do anything, it's just you have to wait for so long to get him in, and then he comes in and it costs you an arm and a leg. I think, yeah, look, I 100% agree with that. I think probably delivery drivers and like articulated vehicles, even boats probably, and will be next or fairly shortly after the drivers, the gig economy winners. I think as well that just on the DePIN side of things, I think why DePIN is important is because DePIN is the West's way to catch up with China, in my opinion. Crowdsource everything, like don't centralize, have millions of participants, millions and millions of participants all helping catch up. That's a faster path.
Yeah.
And I think robotics is coming. So buckle up, everyone, whether you want it to or not, whether you believe, whether you're an optimist or a pessimist. I think that the jury is very much still out on what way it's going to look when everything sort of, as we progress. Hopefully we won't all get enslaved. But if we don't, then yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp as you. Let's try and it's early, so now's the time to try to start owning some of this stuff.
For sure. We're in the process. You remember OpenAI when ChatGPT came out, right? And that was like the big. I think that was the big, like, AI had been a thing, right? People had talked about it, but that was the big onboarding of people, and I think the kind of the start of the big AI movement and the capital inflows, right. Like for the masses. I think we're probably on the verge of that. I think autonomous vehicles is going to be kind of the moment where the masses start interacting with robotics. And I think we're right now just ahead of that, right? So this is why I'm heavily investing in this stuff, man. And there couldn't be a better time when you look at the fear and greed index here. And we'll leave you guys with this.
Index just is basically like a sign saying buy now.
Guys, like, yeah. So this is the one I always pull up. There's several of them out there. This one seems to be the best one as far as correlation, but we have now been in extreme fear for as long as we were after FTX back in 2022. So yes, this is generally time when you get up above 90 is generally a time within that 2 to 3 week period you can take some profits. That's when the markets are overheated.
Yeah, sell everything.
Yeah, I mean, really, and I hate saying that, but like when you're in a emerging markets, like there's market inefficiencies more than in the stock market because we're still so early. And like, Warren Buffett's moved into like 800 billion in cash in the last year. Like when markets are overheated, it's a time to take some chips off the table. But when you're in extreme fear like this, doesn't mean it's necessarily the bottom, but generally speaking, that is the time to be seizing those opportunities. And I think a lot of the projects we talked about today, it'll probably age very well. I'll just put it that way. it reminds me, it gives me vibes of 2022, 2023. Placing bets in the right places there, man, did really well. And I think robotics is going to be one of those cornerstones that the masses soon enough will start to be talking about on a regular basis. We're a little ahead of the curve, in my opinion. So for y'all that joined, man, hopefully you enjoyed this session, but it was a fun conversation, man.
Yeah, I think we did this corner of DePIN a service today in terms of the information shared, and for all of you guys listening. Like, I mean, from my side of things, I'm quite super bullish on this. I think, the choice for all of us is, do we want to let, a handful of corporations own all of the fleets that essentially run our world? I mean, they're going to do their best to anyway, for sure. But, we could alternatively build the maps, own the sensors, hold the tokens for the machines doing all the work. And, that gives us all a seat at the table, basically, for the next industrial revolution, or the next productivity revolution, or whatever you want to call it. The inevitability of our future. So I'd say stay curious and stay bullish.
That's the plan. We got to get you on the Irish coffee hour, by the way. I was talking to Will about that, because I've got DePIN the happy hour tonight. So start off the coffee hour, end with the happy hour tonight. We got to get you on for that Irish coffee hour, though.
Yeah, get the whiskey in there. I'm not really drinking anymore. I've been on a really fitness and longevity health kind of a kick the last 6 months. So I'm a total lightweight now. If I looked at whiskey, I'd be in an Irish coffee. I'd probably be on my back and saying things that I would later wish to take back.
Dang. Well, when I was out in Ireland, I did the Guinness tour. Did not have a chance to do the Jameson one, so that'll be for next time, I think.
Right. Yeah, it's good stuff, that Jameson.
Guinness too. It is. But good for you, man. Good for you. Drinking is actually really bad for you.
Super bad for you.
It's super bad for you. Yeah, it's
and
like
actually, honestly,
poisoning your body.
It is poisoning your body, but as you get older as well, like, you really feel it. Like, you used to be able to bounce back straight away. Now it's like a 3-day thing, recovery cycle. I just can't. I have too much to do.
Yeah, and the less you drink, the harder it hits you too. When you do drink.
Well, that's one thing. That's what I mean about being a lightweight. Like, if I look at drink now, I'm a cheap date.
All right. Well, we'll have to get you some NA whiskey for the Irish coffee hour, but we'll have to get you on there, man.
For sure.
But with that, I got to get ready. I got to hop over to another space here. But guys, appreciate everyone that tuned in today. Neil, as always, man, love the conversation. We'll have more of these things lined up. Some other topics within DePIN. So exciting.
We're gonna have another one. We'll have another one in about a month. Well, actually, maybe not in about a month. Probably a little bit sooner than that. We'll do another one in December, at some stage before we all break for Christmas. And and listen, thank you so much for coming on, Bradley. I love these chats. It's great. You're such a salmon of knowledge. And just everybody who's tuned in, thanks a million, guys, for tuning in again this week, and every week. If you haven't already followed Bradley's YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? At DePIN Connection. Same goes for our own at DePIN Coffee Hour on YouTube and on X. You can follow me at Neil Sisson on X, and please follow at Velo Official also on X, and we're on YouTube as well. All right, until next time, thanks a million, guys. Be kind to each other out there.
Yep.
Ciao.